One of the most amazing things that I have heard recently is that you are what you eat. That the kind of food intake that you deal with or exercise in plays a major role in who, what, and how you are. You know, that's something we don't think about a whole lot. You know, we out there looking for taste. If it tastes good, then sometimes we don't worry about the positive or negative effects that it can have on us. But I'm here to tell you today, with the assistance of our guests, that food plays a major role in health and well-being. And I'm so happy, you know, not only to let you know what goes on with food and the role that it plays in our life, but also to let me know, you know, because we are all concerned about health. We are all concerned about being healthy. We are all concerned about engaging in activities that will contribute positively to our health. So I thought it would not be robbery to have Miss Laurie Mullins with us today to just give us some information on that relationship. Additionally, as per usual, Atrium is always involved in something that's going to improve the community health-wise. So they've got another initiative going on as it relates to food and the availability of it for citizens, not only food, but also education and information. My name is Alex E. Haversham, and I'm your host for this show, which is a call to action. And as I said, I'm more than a little happy, you know, to look, we're dealing with both sides of the sword today, Miss Laurie. You know, we're giving information to the public, but you're also talking to me.
Okay.
You know, so I'm a candidate for your information today because I too am very concerned. So let's begin by telling us a little bit about yourself.
I most certainly will. And thank you for having me, because I'm very excited as well to be here and to share not only with you, but with the community what Atrium Health Navicent is doing to hopefully bridge a gap in our community. My name is Laurie Mullins, and I'm a nurse practitioner, and I work in a department called Healthy Communities, which is a part of Atrium Health Navicent. And we're very excited to introduce a new program, and it's called the Food as Medicine Market. And Mr. Habersham, as you said, we have known for centuries that food impacts our health. In fact, way back in the 1700s, we knew that the ships that had sailors that had access to lemons and limes and citrus fruits fared much, much better than the ships that sailed and did not have access to citrus, and they would lose as many as half their sailors to a disease called scurvy. So we actually learned in the 1700s that fruits and vegetables played a huge part in preventing diseases. So here we are now, once again, realizing that many, many chronic diseases can be improved upon by our diet. So as we move on into 2022, we want to help people realize that diet plays a tremendous role in the improvement and sometimes prevention of various disease states. So we now at Atrium Health, we have a food as medicine market. And the market will not only provide fresh fruits and vegetables to those people in the community with diabetes, congestive heart failure, hypertension, that cannot afford them, but oftentimes just cannot access them because of where they live. So not only are we going to be able to provide foods that they will need to help manage their disease process, we're going to be providing them with education when they come to visit our market. So we're very excited.
Yeah, you know, it's exciting just to hear you talk about it. So let me ask you this while it's on my mind.
Yes, sir.
If you can afford it, can you still come?
Absolutely. We will have a phone number that we can provide the listeners and people in our community. And if they would like education, but perhaps they can afford foods, they are still more than welcome to come to our market, where an educator, nurses, social workers will be available to educate them on their disease process and what would help them to eat, and of course, those things we might need to avoid. And we are hoping to begin by targeting some of the more prevalent disease states in the community, such as congestive heart failure, diabetes, and high blood pressure. So when a person makes an appointment, we will have educators available to walk with them through the food market and talk with them about what they want to choose, and just guide them and say, you know, if you have congestive heart failure, we need to watch your salt. So let's look at that can of green beans and see how much salt is in that can of green beans and what we might could choose that would be better for you. So we're going to have educators available to walk with the clients through the market to educate them on their disease process and the better choices of foods and vegetables that they can make. And if they are not in need of the foods, just learning what they need to be eating so that when they go to whatever market of their choice is, they'll know how to make better choices.
So now you telling me that in some instances, that food is better than medication.
Well, we would
Right.
like to say that in conjunction
Right.
with your medicines,
Right.
food is an incredible intervention to managing that disease process. And for some situations, actually preventing. Think in terms of preventing coronary artery disease, which we know is a disease of those vessels that feed our heart muscle. If we eat a diet that is very laden with fat, cholesterol, things of that nature, then we may be increasing our risk to develop coronary artery disease, which you know can lead to a heart attack. Where if your diet is free of those items or in moderation, you actually may prevent the buildup of plaque in those arteries and prevent coronary artery disease being a disease you have to learn to live with.
Will the information be packaged to the extent that, you know, like if say, for example, a person that has diabetes, so the person that is really, really serious about controlling his or her diabetes, and they come to the food is medicine mark, the pharmacy with an
Yes, sir.
F,
Yes, sir.
FARMACY. I thought that was really cute.
Yes,
It's
sir.
called the Atrium Health Pharmacy, right?
Right. That's correct.
FARMACY. So if in fact person A is serious about it, they go to this pharmacy, then are you telling me that they can really come up with an approach, and they can be educated as it relates to what they ought to do moving forward, not just a one-shot deal. You know, they can really educate themselves and learn what kind of behavior in which to engage to really improve their condition or prevent their condition?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Well, the diabetes, as we all know, is we don't have enough of a particular chemical in our body called insulin to make our cells use glucose, which is sugar. So when a diabetic is struggling to stabilize or improve their diabetes, they have to limit the number of what we call carbohydrates, which is a food choice that turns quickly into sugar. So if you came to our food pharmacy and you said, Laurie, I have diabetes, what foods would be better for me to eat to help me keep my blood sugar down? Well, then we're going to pick up a basket and we're going to walk through our food pharmacy and we're going to talk about all the food choices the patient would like to make. And we're going to decide together if that would be good to help them control their diabetes. And then we can sit down at a table in the back of our food pharmacy, and we've got literature that we can go over and discuss diabetes. We've got food groups that we can share with them, and we can discuss what they chose in their basket to help them understand what foods would be the wisest choice in helping them control their diabetes. So we are just really excited about not only being able to offer food to people that may not have access to it, but the education such that they can take that education and go forward in life wherever they shop. And then they'll know, well, you know, this food is a very high carbohydrate. It's going to turn quickly into sugar and it's going to make my blood sugar go up. So maybe I need to choose something a little differently so that I can control my diabetes better and hopefully improve the condition. So there are so many things, Mr. Habersham, that we're excited to be able to teach people, not only with diabetes, but high blood pressure, which we call hypertension, and congestive heart failure, which is very prevalent, unfortunately, in our community. So we're excited.
Yeah, okay. You know, that is so good to know. Also, talk a little bit about healthy eating, because it's my understanding, and you the nurse practitioner, I'm not, you the expert, I'm learning
Yes,
along
sir.
with everybody else, but it's my understanding that eating habits, even though you may not have
That's correct.
these conditions, that your eating habits can contribute to your not getting them, or you're living a healthier life through healthy eating styles. Is that true?
Yes,
Say,
sir.
say that a person, you know, say, well, I don't have congestive heart failure, and I don't have diabetes, and I don't have cancer, or I don't have hypertension, but I don't want them either. You know what
That's
I'm saying?
right.
And they may come to you and ask you, well, what should I do as it relates to trying to consume foods that's going to contribute positively to my being and staying healthy?
Well, absolutely. You know, Mr. Habersham, I've got two issues there I wanted to share with you. Number one, I was born and raised right here in Macon, Georgia. So, you know, we live in a part of the country where sometimes we do not have the best eating habits. Here in the South, you know, I can say that my family, and I'll claim that, my family is guilty of eating those things oftentimes that are fried. And, you know, we heavily season a lot of our vegetables with salt. And I'm pretty sure that we do not have the healthiest eating habits here in the Deep South. So we've learned over the years that some of those things that we love, that, like you said in the opening of this program, we just love to eat because they taste good, unfortunately, are not necessarily good for us. And we also know that foods that have preservatives in them, like in a can that can stay on the shelf for a long time, are very heavy in salt and sugar, which oftentimes can lead to conditions that will cause inflammation. So even if you come to the clinic and you don't have diabetes or congestive heart failure, but you say, I want to learn how to eat healthy, we can help you learn how to eat healthy by learning to read labels or understanding those factors that contribute to disease. And hopefully we're going to help people improve whatever disease state they may have by making wiser choices of food groups. So absolutely, there's a lot of education that's going to be offered for those that have disease processes and those that just want to live a healthier life and prevent perhaps from ever having to deal with one.
You know, in doing a little research because I knew I was going to talk to you today.
Okay.
Well, I just did a little research on food as medicine. And, you know, this guy talked about colon cancer, which is more prevalent in African Americans.
Yes, sir.
And he said that African Americans, I mean, blacks in Africa, you know, had a lesser incidence of that colon cancer than Americans.
Yes, sir.
And said that the difference probably was animal fat, you know, in the intestines, and be, you know, not asking you to editorialize on that. But the statistics show that although it seems that a lot of black folk get colon cancer, you know, in America, were the people with the same DNA or ethnicity, if you please, in Africa, you know, it was somewhat, you were like 50 times more likely
Wow.
in America to get colon cancer as an African American than not. So I just think that that's an indication, you know, that's oh yeah, I want to say this right quick. You know, talking about, you know, I just need to say this, Miss Laurie.
Okay.
What's good to you is not necessarily good for you. So.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. I think oftentimes, and I'm guilty of it myself, we think in terms of only wanting to eat those things that taste good. We don't necessarily think in terms of needing to eat those things that are good for us. And that's a mindset that's going to be, especially here in the Deep South, it would be a mindset that's going to be very difficult to kind of change. But this is a beginning and we're moving in the right direction. And I think it's going to be good for the whole community. But as you spoke of the higher incidence of colon cancer here in the United States and probably in most westernized countries, you're also looking at, we eat a tremendous number of processed foods that are very low in fiber. And that contributes to a lot of gastrointestinal problems, such as colon cancer. So, like you said, the foods that taste so good to us may not necessarily be the foods we are good for us.
So we'll understand, what do you mean processed food and what do you mean fiber? Show me what the connection is.
That's right. Processed foods are foods that have gone through different stages of preparation such that they have longer shelf life, like cans, canned meat or canned vegetables or anything that has been manufactured such that it can stay on the shelf for a long time. They're usually very high in salt and they're usually very high in sugar. But foods that are not processed, like foods that you can go out in your backyard if you have a little garden and pick some squash or pick some cucumbers or some zucchini or carrots, and you bring them in and you wash them and you prepare them and they go right from your garden to your table. They're going to be better for you because they haven't gone through that intense processing to keep them stable in a can for a long period of time. And they're going to be high in fiber. And fiber is that content that helps food move through our GI system faster. So we are a westernized, we live in a westernized, very industrialized country. And therefore we have access to fast food, which, as you know, as well as I do, it tastes great, but it's usually very high in salt and very high in cholesterol, because those things make our foods taste better. And we've developed a palate for wanting things that taste good. Yeah. But unfortunately, like we've been saying, it's not necessarily good for us. So we are hoping. Yes,
let
sir.
me ask you this while it's on my mind. Uh, is there any, are frozen foods any better than canned foods? You know,
Yes.
because when you go to the grocery store, you can either get it canned, you can get it frozen, or you can get it fresh. They give me the priority of those three.
Well, what we encourage our patients to do, if they can, because you and I haven't really even touched on the whole subject of patients that do not have access to fresh foods because of where they live. We speak of that oftentimes of food deserts. They do not live near a large grocery store where they have access to fresh. And oftentimes they don't have the financial means to afford a buggy full of fresh foods because, you know, that's oftentimes more expensive. So we always tell our patients, if you cannot afford fresh foods or you don't have access to fresh, see if you can purchase frozen foods, because frozen foods are not laden with salt and sugar. And that's why they have to stay in the freezer. You know, that's how they're preserved, is by, you know, the freezing process. So we always tell people, if you have access to fresh, that's awesome. If not, try frozen. And unfortunately, for some of our families, they don't have access to fresh or frozen. So we have to be creative with how to help them, even if they have to have something in a can. We, especially with congestive heart failure, which is a condition that we can talk about if you want to, they need to really be careful with their salt. And sometimes we have families that cannot afford anything but a canned vegetable. So we encourage them to take those canned green beans and put them in a colander and at least rinse them the best they can, to get rid of maybe any extra salt that the vegetable hadn't absorbed already. But we do start off with fresh. That's number one. Number two, if you can't afford fresh or you don't have access to it, we encourage frozen. And if we have to use cans, which we all do from time to time, we try to encourage people to pick those cans that are low in sodium. And, you know, the label will often say, you know, low salt or low sodium. And even at that, we encourage them oftentimes, if they can even just rinse them, it will be better than, you know, eating it straight out of the can. Because several of our disease processes like high blood pressure and congestive heart failure, salt is not a good thing to overload with. So we have to teach people how to limit their salt. And if they do not have access to a large grocery store, you can teach someone a great deal of knowledge, but if they don't have access to a large grocery store where they can make wise choices, I'm afraid we haven't helped them as much as we should have.
Well, I bet you we just hit on something. You know what I think about,
Let's,
and this
sir.
is kind of off the subject, but I think that you would agree. You know, the mayor is tearing down hundreds of houses throughout our community.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't it be nice to create community gardens in those plots? You know, and then even, you know, I got, you know, I'm thinking about it. I don't have a green thumb. My thumb is black, but I'm thinking about trying to. I'm thinking, I'm thinking about, you know, trying to, you know, that could be a way to address it, you know, and I know, you know, maybe I forget the agency, but I can't call the name of the agency, but I bet you there's an agency in town that would assist people, you know, to know about planting, you know, plant
Right,
collard greens or some squash or some
right.
tomatoes. And that's just something on the side, but
Mhm.
it's important because there may be some people sitting around and got diabetes or what have you, and not near a grocery store. Well, if they got a backyard, maybe they can get some seeds and you know and grow their own. I just want to say that, throw it out there. Maybe somebody will latch on to that idea. Two more things I want to mention.
Yes, sir.
What, you know, talking about taste. You know, and it might take a dietitian for this or somebody, other than you and me. But are there some kind of alternative seasoning that are not necessarily bad for you? I know some it's still meat, but I know some people say like cook your collard greens rather than ham hocks. You know,
Right.
use turkey wings or cured turkey or something like that. So talk about spices and foods or additional additions that can maybe contribute to the taste, but not to the unhealthiness of the food.
Yes, sir. In fact, when you come to our food as medicine market, we have a little section in the back where we're actually growing our herbs to help people understand there are alternatives to seasoning foods. I believe we have basil growing. We also encourage people to use spices like cumin. We have various different plants that, and I'm drawing a blank in terms of some of the names of the herbs we're growing downstairs. But we always encourage people that if you're just needing to season up something and you want to grab for that salt shaker, you might want to try some fresh garlic or onions, bell peppers. There is an array of different ways. But, like we were saying, Mr. Habersham, I grew up, I can't speak for you, I grew up in the deep South where, we put fat back in our collards and our turnips, and we season heavily with salt, and that's just how we were raised. And, we had fried chicken on Sunday with mashed potatoes and butter beans and peas and cornbread that was, fried in lard. So I'm very familiar with our dietary patterns because I'm homegrown, but there is a multitude of ways to season food that's more healthy.
Well, I'm homegrown too, and I'm public housing grown, Tyndall Heights in Macon,
Okay.
Georgia.
Okay.
So I know all about that. Well, let's approach another angle. Though you are doing a phenomenal job, and I'll tell you, like I told Dr. Smith from the Bibb County Health Department, you can tell when people are just doing something because somebody up top is making them doing it, but when they do it from inside and they feel it and they believe in it and they
Yes, sir.
want to do it and they enthusiastic, and I can feel and see that in you, and I really appreciate it. But you can't do it all by yourself.
Yes,
So
sir.
how can the community help? Do you all have a speakers bureau, or can you assist? Look, uh, uh, nurse practitioner Mullins, it would be a phenomenal thing if churches and other organizations could adopt, some kind of food as medicine program or seminar or training session. And then, so they can, I'm sure that the pastors would be very, very amenable to educating their parishioners as it relates to that. So how can that, do you have a speakers bureau, or are you working on webinars or some kind of website or something that will assist, individuals, agencies, and organizations who want to learn more, like from a group perspective, and not necessarily, we don't want to bombard the pharmacy. And I know you try to cover as many people as possible, but with the kind of information, maybe there's a way to do it en masse, if you please, because everybody needs to know this. This is so meaningful and it's so helpful. And look, if you feel better and if you're not sick, then you can make different contributions to the community, not to mention the kind of toll that you take on people who have to care for you.
Yes, sir. We have,
Caregiving is look, caregiving is phenomenal, and I don't wish that on anybody as it relates to me. So I'm looking you in the eye and telling you that I'm going to do better.
okay, well, I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah, you will hold me to it, with a hammer, you know,
Okay.
because caregiving takes a toll. And then when you look at it peripherally, then you might be, you not only you helping yourself, but you are helping your loved ones because you're trying to take care of yourself. Because if somebody loves you, they're gonna try to take care of you. So that's a factor in motivating individuals maybe to try to eat better and or do better. But we're talking about outreach. That's where I was going before I
Yes,
interrupted.
sir. Our Healthy Communities Department here, and we're located at 618 Orange Street, is dedicated to outreach programs. And we have a gentleman by the name of Charles Krause, who is an educator for our Healthy Communities Department. And he will be in the Food is Medicine market every time it is opened. And he will be more than glad to help you with some of those concerns and outreach issues. We also have a lady by the name of Angeline Doe, who's one of the original founders of the Food is Pharmacy market, along with Carol Babcock. And they would love to talk with you about opportunities where we can share with the community and pass this information on and help other people. Absolutely. We would be more than glad to share with you and do whatever we need to do to help our community so that people can live healthier lives. We would love it.
Yeah, that's extremely important. So walk us through again, what the food pharmacy is, the location, and the contact information.
Yes, sir. We are located at 618 Orange Street. And if you've lived in Macon a long time, you might be familiar with the little park called Daisy Park, which is on Orange Street. We are right beside Daisy Park, and our parking lot actually is across the street from the Children's Hospital of Atrium Health Navicent. So we're very easy to find. We're located right down here by the hospital. And we do have people, hope that people will call and make an appointment. And the reason we want people to make an appointment is so we can be ready and prepared by having one of our nurses or our educators ready for them when they come. And that number is 478-633-5656. And you make an appointment and then we'll be ready for you. Or if you have a computer, you can go online as foodasmedicine@atriumhealth.org. And we would just love to have you. We will be expecting you. And we want to just reach out to the community and help as many people as we can.
That is so outstanding. Believe it or not, we've had so much fun talking about food until we're out of time.
No, I hate that.
Yeah.
We were just getting started.
This is a call to action. I'm your host, Alex Habersham, having interviewed Ms. Laurie Mullins, food practitioner, who is educating us on the food pharmacy, Pharmacy. We thank you for listening and viewing, and we tell you to help us realize, and I hope you realize, that healthy eating can contribute to healthy living. I'm Alex Habersham, your host. Have a great day.
www.makingblackpages.com